Good morning. For nearly 2 months, I've repeatedly come before you to provide details about the extent of the chaos and abuse and violence that Donald Trump, ICE, and the Border Patrol have inflicted on the people of Illinois. It is now happening at a pace and at a scale that is wider and more intense than it was in previous weeks. It's important that all Illinoisans, in fact, all patriotic Americans, recognize what is happening here in our state, because we cannot let this become normalized. We cannot let the Trump administration's unlawful behavior or abuse of power slip through the cracks. Our Chicagoland neighborhoods are being bombarded with tear gas, invaded by unidentified masked men in unmarked vehicles, thugs who are intimidating workers and children and grandparents, most of whom are black or brown, most of whom have committed no offense at all. That is why I established the Illinois Accountability Commission to gather evidence, video, documents, testimony, to make a record of the abuses in the hopes that they will dissuade the abusers, give courts and decision makers reason to intervene, and spur peaceful response to the invasion we are experiencing. That is why I'm here again today, to continue shining a light on this for people across Illinois and across the nation. Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and Kristi Noem have said they want to target the worst of the worst. They have not done that. Far from it. They have targeted families and children, burrito vendors, landscapers, delivery drivers, nannies, U.S. citizens, legal residents, and longtime Chicagoans, people who have never broken the law. Just over the last week, we've seen even more of ICE's and CBP's awful behavior, the kind that will leave a lasting imprint on a neighborhood full of children and families, on our communities, on our democracy. When Kristi Noem says they're removing the worst of the worst, we all wish that is what they were doing. Please, when you find dangerous criminals, remove them. Let's all work together, federal and state law enforcement, to arrest the bad guys. But instead, it's become obvious that some of these federal agents and the people in charge of them, well, they are the people that our families should be afraid of. On Saturday in Chicago's old Irving Park neighborhood, the sun was shining and the community was preparing for their annual kids' Halloween parade. The families in old Irving Park take Halloween very seriously. Houses are decked out with decorations, candy buckets are full, and kids come from all over the city to trick or treat there. But this year, the parade was interrupted and then canceled. Not because of rain, but because of tear gas. Federal agents swarmed into the neighborhood not with a criminal target in their sights, but just because old Irving Park was the next neighborhood on their list to terrorize. Witnesses say the agents swept in, donning automatic weapons, pushed elderly people to the ground, and blasted the area with tear gas. They ended up detaining 3 people. None of them had done anything wrong. 2 of them were U.S. citizens. It had been a beautiful fall morning with children and families getting ready to march in the long-anticipated Halloween parade. So imagine it. Children who woke up that morning expectant with joy and excitement to put on their costumes and celebrate with their neighbors in what they thought was a safe place at their homes. Armed, masked agents terrorizing innocent people, especially children, is unconscionable. Under the color of law, invading peaceful neighborhoods, no criminal targets. This wasn't happening before the Trump administration. Now, U.S. federal law enforcement attacking good and decent people, unprovoked, with no explanation. So don't believe it when they tell you that they're busting the worst of the worst gangs or gang members. They're attacking peaceful neighborhoods and terrorizing kids in Halloween parades. Children across the city are being traumatized. Their parents are being taken from them. Families are being ripped apart, sometimes in the most heartbreaking of circumstances. Take, for example, Ruben Torres Maldonado. He is a hardworking painter and a renovator, and the father of 2 young children, including a 4-year-old son and a daughter, Ophelia, who is battling stage 4 cancer. Federal agents illegally took Ruben into custody while he was at work. He has been ordered to be released, but now he can no longer provide for his family when they need him the most. Again, remember, they keep telling us they're targeting the worst of the worst. Instead, this is a father taken away from his daughter who is fighting cancer. The cruelty of families being torn apart. More and more, that's the effect of the tactics of ICE and CBP. We've seen a lot of egregious behavior, and I want you to hear directly from one family that has been devastated by what they're doing.
This video quickly spread across social media. A teenage girl on the side of the road shielding her younger siblings as ICE agents arrest their parents and older brother after a traffic stop in September.
Your brother, is he a citizen?
We don't answer questions. That's all I could say. Like, no other words came out of my mouth. I was not prepared for that.
19-year-old Juditzi Enciso and her 22-year-old brother Moises Jr. speaking publicly for the first time about that viral moment that they say turned their lives upside down.
My heart was just, it kept pounding. My legs, my hand kept shaking.
She says she was only able to hold it together for her 12-year-old sister and her little brother, who was turning 10 that day.
I didn't want them to see me crying because that was going to affect them more.
Yeah.
So I just had to make sure that they were calm. It's okay. We're going to be okay.
Moises Jr. says that morning he went with his parents to pick up supplies at Home Depot before the family's birthday celebration when they were pulled over for allegedly making an illegal U-turn. He repulsed 3 ICE vehicles, blocking them in, and agents surrounding their car, demanding to see their IDs.
And they just kept asking me these questions, and my dad kept looking back at me and to make sure I answer, what should I do, and I was kind of like also panicking.
Juditzi and Moises Jr. both are awaiting approval for deferred action for childhood arrival status, or DACA. Their siblings are U.S. citizens. According to DHS, their parents, Constantina Ramirez and Moises Enciso Sr., are undocumented Mexican immigrants. They have lived in Cicero, a suburb outside of Chicago, for nearly 20 years, the family attorney told CNN. They are now being held in separate detention centers.
And I remember that first night, the first thing I wanted to do was sleep in my mom and dad's bed because it felt like if I was sleeping there, I had like a part of them.
That night marked the beginning of a new reality, one where they were suddenly left to care for their younger siblings.
They haven't been doing good. They're always saying that they miss them whenever we're like about to eat and like, oh, they have flashbacks about my mom and dad. Oh, whenever mom and dad takes time and they just like go quiet. It's sad.
What would it mean for your family if they were to get deported?
They try not to think about it.
Oh, it's hard.
We don't know. We don't know if my siblings can stay here with us. Like, we don't know if they have to go to Mexico. There's just a lot of like insecurity or uncertainty that we just.
According to DHS, if the parents have a valid claim, it will be heard by the judge. If not, they will be subject to removal. But their children say they'll keep fighting until their family is together again.
They're not friends. There's hardworking people who, I don't know, I consider my parents were best friends. I know they're gonna be there for me and support me.
hardworking and law-abiding but undocumented parents snatched away from their children, the children left at the side of the road. Is this what Kristi Noem and Donald Trump mean when they say the worst of the worst? Thank God the younger children, a 12-year-old girl and 10-year-old boy, had their big brother and sister there to protect them. In this situation, I want to ask everyone, who is the worst of the worst? And this is just one family. Every day there are countless stories of fathers and mothers being pulled away from their children, not being told where or when they'll see each other again. When they say they're taking away the worst of the worst, they've demonstrated over and over that that's simply not true. The Department of Homeland Security claims their highest priority is to protect children. So today I have to ask them, please live up to those ideals. I've sent a letter to Kristi Noem and to the Department of Homeland Security leadership asking them to pause all of their federal agent operations for the entirety of the Halloween weekend. I'm asking for basic human decency. I think their response will be revealing. They've disrupted everything for more than 2 months already. Give the children and the families of Illinois a break. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, show us this is about something other than you just causing mayhem on our streets and visiting cruelty upon our people. And after Halloween, if you want to actually go after the worst of the worst, work with our local law enforcement to help us go after violent criminals. Instead, you are targeting innocent children and families, black and brown people, U.S. citizens, hardworking parents. In essence, you are targeting all of us. It's un-American, and we cannot stand for this. I will not stand for this. I want to now speak directly to Greg Bovino. Mr. Bovino, your operation has sown fear and division and chaos among law-abiding residents in our communities. If you are unwilling to cease operations and leave our city, can we at least agree that our children should not be victims, especially on Halloween? Can we agree that there is no imminent threat that should disrupt their holiday? No child in America should have to go trick-or-treating in fear that they might be confronted with armed federal agents and have to inhale tear gas. I honestly can't even believe that I have to make this plea. This is not the America that I know. I ask you to restore some sanity for the sake of our children. And I would like to invite to the podium Representative Norma Hernandez.
Good morning, buenos dias. I appreciate everyone that's here, my colleagues, Governor Pritzker, his team, and I'm standing with our leaders, our advocates, because what is happening in our neighborhoods is unacceptable, it's dangerous, and it is un-American. For weeks, we've watched an alarming escalation of ICE activity across Illinois. These are not routine operations. These are aggressive, militarized raids with agents in tactical gear swarming our neighborhoods and detaining anyone without explanation, blocking off streets, intimidating families, and violating people's civil rights. And we are feeling the harmful effects every single day. These actions are not just traumatizing, but they are destabilizing our economy, hurting small businesses, and even impacting school attendance. And fear is not a policy solution. Trauma is not public safety. And no level of government, local, state, or federal, should be allowed to terrorize the very people they're supposed to serve. We're also witnessing something incredibly disturbing. Not only are immigrants being arrested and injured, but rapid responders, legal observers, journalists, elected officials, and volunteers who record these incidents, which is legal, are now being detained as well and arrested for documenting government misconduct and illegal tactics. Just recently, a 67-year-old U.S. citizen from Chicago was dragged from his car, suffering 6 broken ribs and internal bleeding. That is not law enforcement. That is a dangerous overreach of power by Trump's secret police, and they are getting more aggressive, more violent, and attacking more people that pose no threat to them. Only 2 months ago, a pair of masked men approached Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, who was on his way to work after dropping off his kids to school, where these agents were armed. Silverio feared for his life and tried to run away, but agents shot him and watched him die on the streets. And then they lied about it, with no accountability still. But ICE continues to lie, and they continue to have dangerous and illegal tactics when people are supposed to be trained to de-escalate and are aggressively and intentionally escalating. It sends a message that no one is safe, that ICE lies, and people are getting hurt. This is how accountability dies. And to the families that are scared, to the children that cry at night because they don't know if their parents are going to come home, we see you, and we hear you, and we will not be silent. Illinois has long been the state that welcomes immigrants, and it is what makes us strong, vibrant, and economically resilient. We are a state that believes in dignity, due process, and human rights. Yet today, those values are being tested, so our message is loud and clear. We demand that the federal government stop attacking American cities and stop harming the families who call this place home, to stop the indiscriminate and dangerous and illegal raids, to stop the intimidation of these attacks on community volunteers and working families, to stop weaponizing fear against our own residents. And what we need is immediate transparency from DHS and ICE, data on the arrests and injuries, accountability for unlawful detentions, protection for rapid responders and legal observers, federal oversight to stop this abuse of power. And we need to remind every elected official, regardless of party, that immigrants are not political pawns. They are workers, taxpayers, small business owners, neighbors, and parents. They are the backbone of our community, and they make Illinois stronger. And Illinois will continue to stand by its values. We will continue to defend our residents, and we will fight in the courts, as we're doing now, in the Capitol, and in the streets, until every family feels and is safe. Because this is not just policy, this is a literal human rights issue. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Linda Tortorero.
Buenos dias, good morning. I would like to thank the governor and his team for organizing this press conference, and I would like to thank the advocates, elected officials, and partners that are here with me today. Latino Policy Forum's mission centers immigrant students and families and English learners in their pursuit of happiness, well-being, and academic success. This weekend, Latino families in Illinois embrace 2 holidays, Halloween and Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. Both holidays are incredibly meaningful and lead to memorable moments of joy and togetherness for years to come. It is our sincere hope that this weekend, children and families can enjoy wholeheartedly and celebrate safely without fear. As a state, we must protect and uplift meaningful opportunities for happiness and bonding for everyone. Illinois is home to nearly 1 million children of immigrant families. When immigration enforcement escalates, the ripple effects touch nearly 1 million young lives across our state. Immigration enforcement creates toxic stress that damages child development. Research consistently shows that immigration raids and family separations expose children to traumatic events that disrupt healthy brain development. This toxic stress can have long-term implications for a child's developing brain, leading to anxiety, depression, PTSD, and hypervigilance. These aren't temporary reactions. These are long-term impacts that affect children's physical health, emotional well-being, and ability to learn. Fear is keeping children out of school at alarming rates. A recent California study found a 22% increase in daily student absences in immigrant communities during January and February 2025, immediately after the current presidential administration took office. Missing school has serious long-term consequences for Latino and immigrant children. Attendance is one of the strongest predictors of academic success. In Illinois, 1 in 4 students is chronically absent. Research from Chicago Public Schools shows that students with strong attendance rates graduate high school at more than twice the rate of those with poor attendance and enroll in college at over 4 times the rate. When fear keeps children home from school, we're not just talking about missed days, we're talking about derailed futures. We must prioritize children's well-being and educational success. We have a responsibility to ensure that all children in Illinois can attend school safely, develop healthily, and reach their full potential. Fear-based enforcement policies are fundamentally incompatible with child welfare and educational equity. Gracias. And I'd like to introduce Bassem Kowar.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Governor Pritzker and elected officials standing behind us for the support and for hosting this press conference. Once again, my name is Bassem Kowar with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. But I think it's important that I state that today I'm standing here first and foremost as a proud immigrant and a proud leader of the Southwest Suburban Rapid Response Team. I was there on the South Kedzie Avenue in Brighton Park the day that ICE and CBP needlessly deployed tear gas on community members who only wanted to check on their neighbors and bear witness to the disruptions. It was a chaotic moment that was only intended to instill fear, not safety, in an entire community, which ICE and CBP subsequently also brought to neighborhoods like Logan Square, Albany Park, South Chicago, Lakeview, Irving Park, and Little Village. This tear gassing of residential neighborhoods as families return from home, from school, or run errands on a Saturday, or as children prepare for Halloween, is beyond the pale. But even that fear of chemical weapons is nothing compared to what so many of Illinoisans face every single day, being kidnapped by masked agents in the same streets we have always called home. Those same streets we learned to take on our way to drop off our kids at school. Same streets that we memorized to lead us to our grocery stores, our childcare centers, our parks, our hospitals. This is all familiar ground for a federal administration that is looking more and more like a regime, using violence, fear, and lies to keep our communities, citizens and non-citizens alike, on edge. Again and again, CBP and ICE have shown us that their intent is to terrorize our communities, not protect them or keep them safe. Nothing about their operation increases safety or stability. Instead, they sow fear, division, and distrust. But here's what they don't understand. Despite their brutal, lawless attacks on our neighbors, our communities, our elected officials, some of whom are standing behind me here, our fundamental rights and due process, we stand united here in Illinois. We are united in saying stop the raids, stop the violence, and stop separating families. And this weekend and every day after that, we will raise those demands. And as a united community, we will make it through this hostile takeover of our federal government and come out stronger on the other side. In closing, we encourage all community members to know your rights and to continue to hold space in your neighborhoods. You have the right to record law enforcement activity in public space. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to ask for an attorney. And most importantly, you have the right to refuse to sign anything you don't want to sign. And to all our beloved community friends and allies, if you see immigration enforcement activity in your neighborhood, or if someone in your family has been taken, please call the ICIRR Family Support Network hotline at 855-435-7693. Thank you. And next, I would like to invite Principal Noah.
Good morning. My name is Noé Velasquez. I'm the proud principal of Lawrence Park Elementary. We want to acknowledge that the recent ICE activity and the local raids have had an impact on many of our students in our school community. Families are experiencing real fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. And unfortunately, this spills into our classrooms. Those emotions don't stay outside. They come with our students, and they bring them in, affecting not only their behavior, but their learning and their emotional well-being. Our schools are a reflection of the community, and when our community is hurting, our school hurts as well. Families may have a fear of being separated or maybe living day to day with common stressors that are exacerbated by the local activity. Students may show signs of anxiety, withdrawal, sudden emotional reactions, or difficulty concentrating. Some parents have been hesitant to attend our school events. Our job is to lead with understanding, with patience and reassurance, and not assumptions or judgment. Our core commitment is this: regardless of immigration status, every student who walks through our doors is part of our school community and our school family. Our role is to educate, nurture, and deliver on the promise of a quality learning experience. School is and must remain a safe place for learning, growth, and human connection. Our main thing in education is student learning, but learning cannot happen without emotional stability. Safety, kindness, consistency, those are levers in our classrooms that we are using to combat the fear and the trauma that our students are experiencing. Every teacher, every staff member contributes to this stability by keeping routines predictable and interactions compassionate and very intentional. We will continue focusing on high-quality instruction, meaningful relationships, and social-emotional support. Our mission is to ensure that every child thrives academically, experiences the joy of learning, and is empowered and prepared to be a member of a successful future. In times of fear and uncertainty, schools become even more vital as the centers of stability, compassion, and hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to take any questions from members of the media.
Governor, regarding the sweeping energy bill that passed in the House last night, an Illinois Commerce Commission official said earlier yesterday in committee that in order to maintain the least cost possible for electricity, that could entail keeping gas plants open. What would it be like for you to give up one of your key environmental rules, CEJA targets for closing all fossil fuel plants in the middle of an election year?
Well, I appreciate the suggestion by a member of the ICC, but at the moment, that's not something that's on the table. What we're trying to do is lower electricity costs, and we can do that with the bill that is in front of the legislature now. And if it passes, I'll sign it. Isabel. Yes.
Was there any agreement of what comes from the revenues in the House Transit bill?
It's clear that both the Senate President and the Speaker and I want to come together around a bill that will work for the state of Illinois, and most importantly, for funding a world-class transit system. And so that's what many discussions that took place yesterday were really all about, and there was progress that was made.
Did you give them any guidance or leadership on what revenues you would like not to be in the bill or to be in the bill?
Well, each of us had views that were brought to the table and put in the middle of the table and worked on together to make sure that there was an understanding about what could pass. That's the important thing in the end. You've got to get members of both chambers behind it, and to make sure that we can do it in as expeditious a fashion as possible.
Is the transit bill effectively dead now for the veto session in your mind?
For the veto session. The transit bill is not dead. I can tell you there's a whole lot of conversation and collaboration that is still going on. So the work continues.
What about a special session? If it doesn't happen now, would you call a special session for that? And would you also include remapping in a special session for the AP?
We're going to do what's necessary to get a transit bill passed. We all understand how important it is to fund transit throughout the state of Illinois, and so we're going to attempt to try to get it done ASAP.
Yeah. Chaos in the streets. Some are saying that it's because state law says that local police can't cooperate.
No, that's not.
How is that not causing
That's ridiculous. No, what's happening is, I mean, you can look at many of the videos. We've got lots of testimony and videos to show that the way that ICE and CBP are attempting to carry out the orders that they're given from Kristi Noem, from Gregory Bovino, is frankly appears to be against the law, against protocols. I'm giving you options to pick from, against protocols that are given to federal agents or to police. They are the ones who are causing the mayhem on the ground. We have plenty of examples of protesters who are peacefully expressing themselves. You may not like what they're saying, certainly CBP and ICE doesn't, that you may not like what the signs say, but they have a right to do it, and indeed they're protected in that, and should be. It's a constitutional right. Some of them have been fired upon, tear gas thrown at them. These are things that are inciting, you can imagine, to a crowd that's trying to be peaceful when the other side isn't following any rules at all.
Governor, has the retirement bill in good enough shape right now to decide, does it need to be sold, or does it?
I'm sorry, the what retirement bill?
The Tier 2
Tier 2.
retirement fix?
Yeah, it's still being worked on. You know, there was a committee hearing it, and no, there's nothing that's going to be signed in this or passed in this legislative session.
Right now, is that good enough for you?
Oh, I think there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done. Remember, you know, I'm not going to sign anything that is credit negative for the state. We are making a lot of progress in the state. Many of you know we just got our 10th credit upgrade. It's more credit upgrades than any state has received any time in the last 25 years, and we've received them in the last 5 years. We need to keep on with that progress, and so whatever it is that we end up doing needs to make sure that it isn't taking us backward.
Governor, there are several ideas right now to address ICE raids and courthouses, hospitals. Would you like to see something done today on a final day of veto? I know there's a Senate version, there's also some House discussions. What are we looking at today?
I would very much like to see a bill arrive on my desk at the end of today, and I think that is possible, likely. There's been a lot of work that's been done, both behind the scenes and then on the floor, as you've seen. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some progress in that regard. Yes, Olivia.
Just to clarify on your earlier answer on transit, I heard you share your views. Did you say specifically which revenue proposals you support, and if so, which ones? And then also, like, do you feel like you provided enough guidance in this whole process?
Oh, yeah. Those were not our first conversations, the Speaker, the Senate President, and I. So I think everybody understands what's acceptable or what they each think is acceptable in their chambers, and I've expressed myself as well. But what's been important to me is to make sure that everybody gets heard and that we arrive at something that is doable. That's, you know, early on, it feels like sausage making, and there were certainly things in the bill that passed last spring in the Senate that were unacceptable to people in the House, unacceptable to me. There were things in the bill that got passed yesterday by the House, unacceptable to the Senate, unacceptable to me. That's how legislation gets made. You kind of bring everybody together around what are the things that are actually acceptable. Sure, I've expressed myself. I think everybody around that table knows what I think, and I think we understand each other. There is a common understanding that we need to move this forward, and that compromise, you know, often means you give up on something that you were passionate about, or at least you back off a little bit and maybe accept something that you may not have liked before and are willing to go along with. So, yes, Dave.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And this might be the same as Greg's question, but I'm still confused, as usual. You said that if you want to get the worst of the worst, just work with our cops.
Yeah.
But isn't it the law that our cops aren't supposed to work with their cops?
No, that is absolutely false, Dave. If you have a judicial warrant if the feds have a judicial warrant for somebody, you can come get local law enforcement, state law enforcement to help you go get that person. That is absolutely the law. If you know about the commission of a crime, someone robs a bank, and you're going after them, you're in pursuit of them, or you know where to find them, right, and they're being accused of a crime that they've just committed, you can use local law enforcement, coordinate with local law enforcement in order to go capture that person. We do a lot of coordinating all the time, the federal government and state and local officials, all the time. We have task forces that focus on drugs and guns and gangs, and we are successful working together. We need, I've said it many times, we need more help. I've said publicly, I'd love to see more FBI, DEA, ATF working with our local and state law enforcement to catch the bad guys.
And secondly, about the $1.4 million that you earned in gambling, when did that occur, and when did you decide to donate it to charity?
Well, you may have looked at what we released. I mean, I've given millions of dollars to charity during that year and in previous years as well. So it wouldn't be surprising to you that I might give millions of dollars to charity in some other year. And it was earned last year. That's why it was on that report. Sorry.
Following up on Olivia's question.
Yeah.
In the spring, you said we would be delaying broad-based tax increases. Does that remain true to this day and include an on-road transit bill?
Yeah, look, when we talk about broad-based, I mean, there are pretty much three big broad-based taxes that exist in the state of Illinois, and that's what I'm referring to when I talk about broad-based taxes, right? They're individual income taxes, corporate income taxes, and sales tax, right? That applies to the whole state. So those are the things that I think we should stay away from, and indeed, I've expressed that. And like I said, everybody's thrown on the table what they think is the best way to go about paying for a world-class transit system.
So RTA sales tax increase, is that off the table for you as well?
Well, I would say that's, I mean, if you want to talk about that particularly, it's not a statewide broad-based tax. So I, that isn't something I've talked about. I just told you what the three, big buckets are that I've said I'd like to avoid. There are lots of things, though, that have been brought up. I mean, you're asking about one in particular. There are really a lot of, there's a long list of ideas that have been put on the table, and you've got to get somewhere. I realize that the Republicans don't want to pay for anything, and so they would love to make everything world-class, but they think it doesn't cost any money. And so from my perspective, no one likes to have to find revenue to pay for things, but it's the only way you can actually get something done if you have to pay for it.
The phrase that's been thrown around on the remap is everything's on the table. The speaker said it, Leader Jeffrey said it when he was here on Monday. Is there like a red line where you guys would act on a remap? I mean, we see what's happening. Indiana has a special session next week. Ohio, we're seeing moves. A few other states. Is there a tipping point where Illinois would, I guess in your view, have no choice but to drop the maps?
Well, it's more and more disturbing as you see each state sort of fall, right? Each Trump-inspired governor and legislature decide to just go along with something they know is wrong. They know it's wrong to do it, mid-decade, to redistrict mid-decade, which rarely happens, and to do it on such a partisan fashion mid-decade. And they are doing it in violation many times of the Voting Rights Act. So these things will end up getting litigated too. And they know it. And so I think all of that is weighing on everybody's minds, as this thing progresses. Indiana just a couple of weeks ago said they weren't going to move forward. And then just a week ago or so, they said, oh, maybe we will call a special session. Now it appears they will. So, yeah, all those things, I think, weigh on everybody's minds.
Governor, do the federal government SNAP benefits are supposed to run on Saturday?
Yeah,
What
that's true.
contingency plans are in place by the state of Illinois to try to stave off some of those losses?
We've made that clear, I think. What's that? I'm sorry. Well, what we're trying to do is bolster the existing organizations out there that feed people. Remember that that they've done something insidious, the federal government, in addition to Donald Trump being willing to turn off SNAP benefits on November 1, when they do have emergency funds available at the Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they're choosing not to use it. But they've done something even more insidious. They've decided to shut down the SNAP machines so that they can't be used. So even if we were to put money into SNAP accounts, they couldn't be accessed by someone who has a SNAP card. So just wanted to point that out. That is what they're, they won't even allow you basically to do what some people have suggested. So we're using whatever methods we have to feed people, and that's to support pantries, to support organizations out there that are providing meals for people. And so we're hoping that this doesn't have to go on too terribly long. November 1 may come and go. but there's November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and so on. And our hope is that the president will come to his senses and understand that there are people who will otherwise starve or be deprived as a result of his policies.
Sometimes right here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Mitch.
What do you make of the Chicago Bears offer to pay $25 million to facilitate a development bill?
I just read about it last night. I don't really have any reaction. I'm not sure what it's tied to, what they're asking for in return for it. I mean, I think if they're donating $25 million to support the people of Chicago or the people of Illinois, that's always a good thing.
Governor, how does decoupling not make Illinois less competitive to states like Indiana?
How does decoupling?
Yeah. If the state wants to decouple, how does that not make Illinois less competitive?
Well, look, remember that the purpose ultimately is to make sure that we can pay the bills in the state of Illinois and not be hampered by Donald Trump and the big ugly bill. And having a better healthcare system than other states, having a better road system than other states, having better services available to families, whether it's early childhood programs or paying for our schools. Those are all things that are very attractive to business and very attractive to families. And so we're proud of the fact that we will maintain as best we can the very high quality services that we provide for working families, and think that that makes us more competitive than not decoupling.
Last question. Back to a question about special session is needed. If transit doesn't get done, or if remapping gets pushed to where you feel like you need to get, is there a possibility, are you considering a special session before the end of the year to handle another vote?
I mean, when you say considering, it's not like, we're looking at dates and deciding we're going to, it's the answer is, as things change on the ground in other states, as the situation becomes more precarious for democracy, it of course makes everybody wonder what are the things that we can do, and we have lots of tools available to us, including calling special sessions if necessary. So yeah, and by the way, I'm not the only one with the ability to call a special session. The legislature can too.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck today. Take care.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, I just